It's going to be a real quick tutorial on how to do an army of one. If you look at the avatar here, it's a skeleton. It's very simple. It's a male skeleton, and it's been given a walk cycle. If you look at the timeline, and we choose the skeleton itself, the male skeleton, come over here, and we're looking at the motion, and if there's any animation layer or whatever, you can look at it. But he's been given a motion here. The motion is simple. It's a walk cycle. So we're not starting here at 0, therefore you don't see anything. Come up in the timeline, hit minus. I started it over here. It's called walk on origin. It's just a simple walk cycle. And the project runs from frame 485 here. You can hit tab to go to the beginning of the motion. It starts at 485, and if you go to the end, it ends here, which is 556. I give it an extra frame to make sure that the motion has been completed. But if you take this project and you put it on loop, you can see if you've got a clean loop cycle. You just press play and let him walk. And it should be a continuous loop. As it's looping around, it'll continue to play out. Now, if you want to get rid of that extra frame, it's up to you. I put the extra frame in there for a reason. In case I want to loop it on the timeline, which will be done eventually, then it's just a repetitive cycle. This is what you output in a TGA sequence or TGA right here. And then when you put it out, it's going to give you the opacity layers already there, your alpha channel, if you will. And when you put that out, that's what we're going to do to make an army of one out of this single rendering here. The grid's not going to render, so you come down here and you say, okay, I'm going to put it out in this size. You can make it any size you want. You can make it small. I usually go with widescreen, but some people prefer narrow screens or whatever. This is already set up for a widescreen, so you can put it out 720 by 480, and then you render it, and it's going to ask you, what do you want to render? Well, I've already got it rendered out as an army of 1, 0, 0, 0. TGA is only going to put out a total of 26, 34, 35 frames. So 00035. So there's your sequence. Once that's put out, then you take that sequence, you either composite it in a video editor, or you can put it through as a pop video, which is what I did. We're going to change this, and I'm going to say army of 1 underline 2. That way I know what sequence it is, and create a new folder here and just call it 2. So you put it here, and it's going to be army of 1, 2, and then we take out the zeros here. We don't need those. It'll create that sequence for you, and save it. And it's going to render it out and give you a clean walk cycle, start to finish. That's all you need. One that repeats itself. And once again, here we go. It's still got 35 images. With that, you come in, you choose your program to either composite it in a video editor, or in this case, I'm going to use Pop Video Converter here. Open that up, and it's going to ask you, what do you want to import? So I copy that as an address, come in here, and I browse, and it's going to go here because that was the last folder I went to. But I'm going to use this sequence just to show you it does work. You bring it in, your alpha channel is already made for you. So we open it, and then this is what you're going to actually render into iClone itself. And if you put it on a loop cycle, you'll see it's the same thing that was in iClone itself. It's just going to be a repetitive cycle. It just continues to repeat over and over again. So this is an army of 1 of skeletons. Then you go to output. Your alpha channel has already been selected for you here. It's the same file. And then output, you change your video quality up. There is no sound, so you can drop that down, which will save you size. And then you convert it. Now there's an army of one already here, so I'm going to call it army of one sequence 02. Okay, and it goes under your Reillusion shared templates video folder. Okay, and we'll save it there. And in a couple of minutes, you're done. The rendering is done. So all you need to do now is use that sequence within a project, and that'll be the next step. So I'll pause it here, and then we'll slip into the next step. Okay, on to part 2. If you look at the sequence that was put out, which was here, this we turned into a pop video, and then we're going to take that pop video and we're going to create an army of the same walking skeleton. So you need to go to Users, Public Documents, Reillusion, Shared Templates, then you go to Video. It's here, but I've also got it over here in my content. I actually moved it over here, I believe. If you go into Media, it may be here. Let's see. If I go in here and I sort by date, here, it should come up. Army of one. I've got the first one I did, and this is sequence 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click on it and drag it into the scene. And it's going to ask me, what do I want? Do I want an image layer, plane, or billboard? Billboard always faces the camera. Plane, of course, is just a simple two-faced plane. An image layer would be right on the front of the scene, or a background texture. I'm going to choose billboard, as it creates zero polygons. And then you can resize or rescale it, or you can just hit F, and this is the actual billboard. First thing you need to do once you bring it in, you can rename it if you want to here. I'm not going to, because it's up to you. Just double click it here or hit F2, and you can rename it whatever you want. But once you've got it into the scene, that's your first soldier in the skeleton army. Now open the timeline. On this billboard, there's a drop down for a video. Choose video, and you'll see all your video lines are here. You're already set for a loop. So all you have to do is hit minus, give you some room on the timeline, grab the end of the first clip and drag it out as many frames as you want to. I'll just take it out to this point. And at this end right here is where we're going to stop. So that's 1175. I'm going to put a render output setting of 1175. So I'll come down here and I go to render, and I'm going to render it out not in a sequence but a video of 1175. Range 1175. What that does, it puts my limiter at the end, and then I'm going to test this first one to make sure it's working. This is just a video of the original skeleton put out as a TGA sequence, and then I'm going to repeat him using either multi-duplicate or individual duplications. It's up to you how you do it. But he's in the scene. He's walking. Now I'm going to wait for the restart. It's a little bit of lag there at the beginning, so I open the timeline again, and I come down here, and I'm going to put a point right here. At the very end, it's 1171, so probably 1170 would be the output range. Let's go to 1171 or 70 and see what we've got now. I'll just bring it back a little bit. The video will still play, and see if it continues on its loop when it begins again. And it does. Okay. Might seem like there's a little slight hesitation, and it is because there's a slight transition back to frame 1 or 0, depending on what program you're in. Now, once I've got the single skeleton working, I can either press Control K to create. I'm using my wheel mouse, I'm bringing it back, and I'm going to duplicate this one to another 10 or 12 just to demonstrate it. You want to create a multi-duplicates, which is Control plus K, and what it does is it gives you how many do you want to duplicate. Well, current setting is at 2, and I want to close up the ranks a little bit so I can get more in there. So I'm just going to do a minus here on the X, which is your left to right spacing. I'm going to close that up, bring them up closer. Then I'm going to choose 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That'll give me a full dozen of skeletons walking. They're all using the same video sequence. Notice the polygon count has not changed because billboards don't produce a poly. You can also increase your spatial, etc. You can play with these and see what you like. You can also put a E modifier on it and actually spin these around if you wanted to, but just say OK. Now we've got 12 walking here. First thing I want to do is move the army towards me, like a marching army towards me. So what I'm going to do is create a primitive shape, a box. That box is going to be fairly large, so I hit modify, come down and lock, change it to say 10% of its original size, reset scale, say yes, it's not linked to anything, reset transform is fine, it's already at 0. So I'm going to take all of these billboards, choose the first one, press shift, click the last one, and I'm going to hit the letter I, and I'm going to attach, pick parent, and choose the box. Now the box now controls movement of all 12. So all I've got to do with that box is move it back and forth, hit letter E or W, depending on what you want to do with it, and move those back. I'm going to move them back here, and then move it over here to the center, like this. For the army to march forward, go to the end, which is the end of the walk cycle, and then I'm going to move it forward. It's easier if you come to the side and pick up this and just move those forward like this. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to move forward as they walk. So the first thing I do is get my camera set. It's a preview camera. I'm going to create a new camera. So create, add a camera. And the camera angle here is fine. Go to the end. And now I want to go ahead and move it on the army as if it's walking forward. And it will. It's depending on what you want to do with it. But choose the box. And now the army's walked up to the camera. You could, of course, have them walk further forward. It's up to you. So now that my camera shot is set here, it's set at the beginning, hit stop. And if you press play, your camera angle will change as it transitions to it. So if I just press play, I'm going to go ahead and press Control G to get rid of that grid. You can see them walking forward. Or Control G, put it back on. And your army is coming forward. Now they can be holding weapons or whatever the case is. Whatever your original output was is what you're going to get. Now I've still got it on loop, so I'm going to hit stop. Go ahead and bring it forward and bring it to the final screen. And there you go. Your army has moved forward. It's an army of skeletons. If you want to duplicate that, all you have to do is press Control key, drag. This is in Windows. You drag it, and then you can move those forward, backward, wherever you want them. You can actually move them over here if you like. They're all controlled by this single box. Now on this box itself, you can do a modify on that, and you can set that as a dummy. Change this box also to a dummy, and you'll never see the box itself. Now what's going to happen here is this has already been transitioned, so this army is going to fall right behind it, and they're actually going to blend. By the time it hits the end of it, you see them moving over. So what you have to do is go to the end itself, take this second box, and move it over or move it back. It's up to you. You can move it backwards to its final position and then offset it just a little bit, and that'll be its final position coming up behind the other group that's already been duplicated. So now they're going to continue to slide over, but they're closing ranks, and as they move forward, you've got an entire army of skeletons moving in, and then you can actually put this out again as a new TGA sequence, and that can become a marching army that you can overlay on another video link. It's entirely up to you how you use it, but that's two separate pieces. What I can do here again is press Control, drag, move it over, and when you say remove all animation here, you're not going to do anything with it except for stop the animation on that box. So right click, remove object animation, press end, and where do you want that to be? Well, you want it to come over here, or you can leave it here and have it march forward. It will still work the same way. You've given it a start point and an end point, and it'll continue to march straight forward instead of blending with the other one like this one did. So you have to look at your start key, your end key for a transform, and then it looks like it's jumping around. It is, but when you actually render it, it's not going to do that. You get a full sequence of army skeletons walking towards you with, in the scene, 36 polygons. Selected polygon is 12. So it's 12, 12, 12. 12 times 3, 36. Total of 36 polygons in this scene for a marching army of 1. And that's it. That's all you have to do, and then you can render it out, of course, as a continuous sequence, or you can put it out as a video. It's entirely up to you. If I put it out as video, I can use it as an overlay for future use later, but it's going to be not just one, but an entire army of skeletons. It's actually simple if you take it step by step and you watch what you're doing. Make sure that you put out your sequence so that it includes the alpha channel in the first one, and then you just multi-duplicate or press Control drag and create as many of the soldiers or people in a dance club. If you can have the skeleton dancing if you want to. If I go in here and I created a new skeleton and all he's doing is a waltz, well, you can have 1,000 skeletons waltzing just by using image overlays, or green screening is basically what this is. When I do something like this, I don't choose a particular color background like a green screen because I can gray it out, but I use something that's going to blend. When I do a TGA sequence, it's going to blend with this. If you use green, you're going to get a little green hue inside these bones. Don't use green. Use black, which will blend on the outside. You'll notice the outside of these skeletons, there's a black line. It kind of blends in because when I rendered it using a black background color. That's what I used. And it gave me a nice contrast around the edges so that when it comes out, press Control G, get rid of that grid, it will give you a sequence that's not going to show you like a pink hue or a green hue or a purple hue or anything else on that skeleton, because he is essentially black and white. The eye sockets are black, the edges of the skin or the bones are black, so it will give you a nice blending transition. And that's it. That's all you have to do to create your skeleton marching army of 1. Cricky out.